For decades, the thundering hooves of the Mongols echoed across Eurasia, burning cities, toppling kingdoms, and reducing empires to vassals. No land in their path was spared, and deep in the Balkans, the proud Second Bulgarian Empire was about to fall under a shadow it could not escape. But this isn't just a tale of defeat. It's a story of survival, of betrayal, rebellion, and a boy sent into captivity who would one day return to reclaim his country. This is how the Second Bulgarian Empire broke free from Mongol rule. Before we continue, if you enjoy historical videos like this, like and subscribe for more. To understand how this happened, we must take a step backwards to how it all started. In the winter of 1241, the most feared force on earth, the Mongol army turned its attention to the Balkans. Led by Batu Khan and his cousin Kadan, grandsons of the great Genghis Khan, the Mongols had already devastated much of Eastern Europe. They burned cities in Kiev and Rus and crushed the powerful kingdom of Hungary at the Battle of Mohi. Now, in early 1242, they pushed south through Serbia and into the lands of the Second Bulgarian Empire. At that time, the Second Bulgarian Empire was at a moment of weakness. Its strong ruler, Tsar Ivan Asen II, had died just a year earlier. His young son, Kalaman the Mumps Asen, had taken the throne, but he was a child. The royal court in Tarnovo was in no condition to face an invasion. The Mongols took full advantage. In the spring of 1242, their cavalry stormed the empire territory. Villages were looted, churches burned, fortresses were attacked. Some Mongol forces even reached as far as the outskirts of Constantinople. There was no full occupation, but the destruction was undeniable. The Bulgarian court had no choice but to submit. To avoid complete destruction, Tsar Kalaman's regents agreed to become a tributary to the Mongols. From then on, the Second Bulgarian Empire would send yearly tribute, payments in silver, goods, and even soldiers to the rulers of the Golden Horde, the western branch of the Mongol Empire. Though the Mongols did not stay to govern directly, their presence was felt everywhere. Bulgarian tsars still wore the crown, but only under the watchful eyes of Mongol overlords. Any resistance could bring devastation. It was the beginning of a quiet but heavy form of foreign control. From that moment forward, the Second Bulgarian Empire no longer ruled by its own will. It now answered to an empire that stretched from the steppes of Central Asia to the rivers of Europe. The Mongol yoke had begun. After the Mongols withdrew in 1242, the damage they left behind did not fade. They had burned villages and looted cities, but their true power came afterward, through fear and tribute. Although the Mongol armies returned to the steppes, they left behind a clear command. The Second Bulgarian Empire must obey the Golden Horde and pay for peace. From the 1240s through the 1260s, the Second Bulgarian Empire remained officially independent on paper. But in practice, the Tsars of Tarnovo ruled only with Mongol approval. The country had become a vassal state, just like Hungary, Serbia, and parts of Poland during this period. The rulers of the Golden Horde didn't need to place troops in every Bulgarian town. They ruled from afar, through demands and threats. A Latin chronicler, writing in 1253, described the extent of Mongol control in the region. He wrote that the Mongols claimed dominion from the mouth of the Don to the Danube, and that the Bulgarians were among the peoples who paid them tribute. This marked a major fall for the Second Bulgarian Empire. Just a few decades earlier, Under Tsar Ivan Asen II, it had been the most powerful kingdom in the Balkans. Now, its rulers were trapped between two great empires, the Mongols to the northeast and the Byzantines to the south. One of those rulers was Tsar Constantine T. Asen, who ruled from 1257 to 1277. He tried to balance both worlds. At one point, to protect the Second Bulgarian Empire from Byzantine pressure, he made an alliance with the Golden Horde. In 1263, his government joined a Mongol military expedition into Thrace, helping the Horde punish the Byzantines. That alliance shows just how deeply Mongolia's reach had spread, even into Bulgarian diplomacy and war. By the 1270s, control over the Balkans wasn't coming from a distant Mongol capital anymore. It was now concentrated in the hands of one powerful man, Nogai Khan. Nogai wasn't the official ruler of the Golden Horde, but he was one of its most powerful generals. So powerful, in fact, that he acted like a Khan in the Western territories. He set up his own court near the Danube River, just north of the Second Bulgarian Empire, and began to rule the region like a kingmaker. Nogai married a daughter of the Byzantine Emperor, Michael VIII Palaiologos, sealing a rare alliance between the Mongol steppes and Constantinople. From his camp, Nogai controlled Ruthenians, Vlachs, Alans, and Bulgarians, and he had the power to decide who would sit on the Bulgarian throne. And he used that power. In 1277, a remarkable event shook the Second Bulgarian Empire from within. A commoner named Ivailo, a peasant who had grown tired of Mongol raids and corrupt nobles, led a revolt. He defeated Mongol raiding forces and even crushed the Bulgarian army. Incredibly, Ivailo marched to the capital Tarnovo, married the widowed empress, and took the throne as tsar. It was an extraordinary moment, a man from the fields ruling a medieval kingdom, but Nogai Khan wouldn't allow it. In 1278 to 1279, he sent a massive Mongol army into the Second Bulgarian Empire. Ivailo was besieged at the fortress of Silistra, trapped for months under pressure. Although he managed to escape the siege and fight back, the Mongols wore him down. Eventually, Ivailo fled, ironically, to Nogai's camp, hoping for protection. But Nogai had no interest in peasant kings. Ivailo was strangled to death, and Nogai turned his attention back to the throne. By the 1390s, it was clear. The Second Bulgarian Empire didn't choose its rulers anymore. Nogai Khan did. Meanwhile, Mongol raids never stopped. Chroniclers of the time wrote that Tatar horsemen entered Bulgarian lands daily. Villages were burned, fortresses destroyed, and people kidnapped into slavery. Entire regions were emptied out. Nogai's grip reached so far that Tarnovo, the capital, answered more to the Horde than to its own people. The Second Bulgarian Empire had become little more than a puppet state under a warlord who didn't even live inside its borders. As the 13th century came to a close, the Second Bulgarian Empire was falling apart. After the fall of Ivailo, the peasant tsar who had briefly united the country, a nobleman named George Terter I, became ruler. But his rule was fragile. In 1285, under pressure from the Golden Horde, he was forced to send his son, Theodore Svetoslav, as a hostage to the Mongols. For over 10 years, young Theodore lived among the nomads of the steppe. He wasn't just a prisoner, he was a political pawn, living proof that the Second Bulgarian Empire remained obedient to the Horde. But that time in captivity would shape him in ways no one expected. Theodore learned how Mongol power worked. He studied their tactics, their politics, their brutality. Back home, things grew worse. George Tudor eventually fled to Constantinople, and once again, the Mongols stepped in. Nogai Khan installed Smilets, a Bulgarian noble who served Mongol interests. Smilets ruled from 1292 to 1299, but he had no real independence. He answered to Nogai, and his reign did little to stop the decay. Meanwhile, in the northwestern provinces of the Second Bulgarian Empire, the central government had almost no control. Local lords ruled like mini-kings. The empire was breaking into pieces. Then, in 1299, Nogai Khan was defeated and killed by Khan Tokhta, a rising Khan of the Golden Horde. Chaka, the son of Nogai Khan, fled with a Mongol army into the Second Bulgarian Empire and seized the throne in Tarnovo. Now, for the first time, a foreign Mongol prince ruled directly from the Bulgarian capital. Many Bulgarians saw this as the end. Their czar's throne was now held by a foreigner, a symbol of how far the empire had fallen. But deep within the shadows of this collapse, a transformation was happening. Theodore Svetoslav, the former hostage, had returned. At first, he supported Chaka's claim, but when Chaka's position became unstable, especially with Khan Tokhta, the new ruler of the Golden Horde, marching west to destroy what was left of Nogai's faction, Theodore made his move. In 1300, Theodore organized a coup. Chaka was overthrown and killed in prison. His body was buried quickly, but that wasn't enough. Theodore had Chaka's head cut off and sent it as a gift to Khan Tokhta. That gesture, brutal, calculated, and political, changed everything. Khan Tokhta accepted the gift and, in return, recognized Theodore as the rightful czar of the Second Bulgarian Empire. The Mongol armies withdrew. For the first time in nearly 60 years, the Second Bulgarian Empire was no longer under Mongol control, and the man who made it happen was someone the Mongols themselves had once held as a hostage. Theodore Svetoslav had come home, not to serve, but to rule. With the Mongols finally gone, Theodore Svetoslav stood alone at the head of a broken kingdom. He had removed Chaka, gained recognition from the Golden Horde, and reclaimed his father's dynasty. But now came the harder task, restoring the Second Bulgarian Empire's strength. His first step was to punish betrayal. Theodore knew that many of the empire's boyars, its noble families, had cooperated with the Mongols or played both sides. He moved quickly to purge his court, remove corrupt lords, and retake land that had slipped out of royal control. His early reign was firm and disciplined. For the first time in decades, Tarnovo had a ruler who demanded loyalty and enforced it. But Theodore's ambitions didn't stop with restoring order. He wanted to reclaim the territory the Second Bulgarian Empire had lost during the chaos. He turned his eyes south to Thrace and the Black Sea coast, areas that had been taken by the Byzantine Empire while the empire was weak. These coastal towns were once part of the Second Bulgarian Empire, and they were rich in trade, culture, and resources. Taking them back would send a clear message: the empire was back. In 1303, Theodore launched his campaign. His armies marched swiftly, capturing key cities one after another: Mesembria, today's Nesebar; Anchialos, modern Pomorye; Sozopolis, Sozopol, Otopol. These were not small victories. These were the Second Bulgarian Empire's old strongholds, now restored by a czar who had once been a hostage in the steppes. By 1304, the Byzantine co-emperor Michael IX Palaiologos gathered a force to stop him. The two armies met near the Skafida River in eastern Thrace. The battle was quick and decisive. As the Byzantines tried to cross a bridge during the fighting, the structure collapsed, sending soldiers into chaos. Many drowned or were trampled. The rest broke and fled. The Bulgarian army claimed a clear and symbolic victory. It was the first major battlefield triumph for the Second Bulgarian Empire in decades. The victory at Skafida did more than restore land. It restored confidence. It proved that Theodore's rule wasn't just legitimate, it was strong. The Second Bulgarian Empire had suffered under Mongols, boyars, and foreign invaders. But now, its armies were winning again. Its cities were returning. Its enemies were retreating. And at its center was a tsar who ruled not from inheritance, but from experience, cunning, and strength. The Mongol yoke had been broken, and now the Second Bulgarian Empire was beginning to rise. After winning back the Black Sea coast and defeating the Byzantines at Skafida, Theodore Svetoslav turned inward. He had regained the Second Bulgarian Empire's pride, but if the empire was going to survive, it needed more than military victories. It needed unity, and that meant dealing with a centuries-old problem, ambitious nobles who ruled their provinces like independent lords. One of them was Theodore's own uncle, Aldemir, the despot of Kran. At first, Aldemir had supported Theodore, but over time, he grew powerful and started leaning toward an alliance with the Byzantines. That was a red line. In 1305, Theodore moved swiftly. He annexed Aldemir's territory, stripped him of authority, and reabsorbed the region into the Second Bulgarian Empire. It wasn't just a political move, it was a message. No one, not even family, stood above the crown. Around the same time, a group of warriors known as the Alans, nomadic horsemen from the Caucasus, offered their services. They had broken ties with Byzantium and were looking for new allies. Theodore accepted them. These Alans became elite troops in his army, skilled riders and fighters who owed loyalty directly to the Tsar, not to the nobility. With them, he strengthened his forces and reduced his dependence on unreliable boyar armies. But military power alone wasn't enough. Theodore also understood the value of diplomacy, especially when it could bring long-term peace. In 1307, he made a bold political move. He married Theodora Palaiologina, the granddaughter of Byzantine Emperor Michael IX Palaiologos, the same emperor he had defeated in battle. It wasn't about love, it was about legitimacy. By marrying into the powerful Byzantine family, Theodore turned a former enemy into a family ally. And more importantly, the Byzantines formally recognized his control over the Black Sea towns. No land had to be returned, no tribute was demanded. It was a victory without bloodshed. By 1320, the Second Bulgarian Empire was once again strong, stable, and respected. And it had done so not through blind rebellion or luck, but through the calculated leadership of a man who had learned everything from hardship. In early 1322, after more than 2 decades of rule, Tsar Theodore Svetoslav died, not in exile, not on the battlefield, but peacefully in his bed. It was a rare ending for a ruler of the Second Bulgarian Empire during that era. He had lived through Mongol captivity. He had outlasted rival tsars, executed a foreign usurper, crushed the power of rebellious nobles, and rebuilt a broken empire. Now, for the first time in generations, the throne of Tarnovo passed peacefully to a son, George Tudor II. No civil war, No foreign invasion, no chaos. By the time he died, the Golden Horde had turned its attention elsewhere. Their threats to the Balkans faded. The Byzantines no longer dictated the empire's borders, and the Tartar horsemen, who once ruled the land, now served as minor mercenaries or raiders in civil wars that didn't involve the Second Bulgarian Empire. The Second Bulgarian Empire had outlasted its oppressors. Tarnovo, once a puppet court, now stood proudly as an independent capital again. The Mongol domination that had begun in 1242 with fire and fear ended not in a heroic rebellion or sudden war, but in a quiet, ruthless revolution of leadership, led by one man who had been through it all, Theodore Svetoslav. And with his death, a chapter in the empire's history closed. But his name lived on as the ruler who had given a fractured kingdom its freedom, its power, and its pride. If you enjoyed this historical video, like and subscribe for more historical contents.